Welcome once again to another one of my wonderful little reviews, and this time we're going to review something which I actually did a long play of, which you can see on my channel. It's Bionicle the Game, the PS2 game. Yeah. Okay, so admittedly when I first got this game, I got it with the full knowledge that it was going to be bad. I mean, I've seen nothing but negativity about this game, and truth be told, I bought it for myself because I just wanted to see what it was like. I actually bought it second hand from CEX for quite a cheap price, thankfully. That said, I heard horror stories from this game. I've seen bad reviews all around, so it was interesting to see how bad this game truly was. And yeah, it's kind of bad. I admit, I played Bionicle Heroes, and Bionicle Heroes is a great game. I totally recommend people to play that game over this game if you ever buy or have this game. And yes, there's a lot of problems with Bionicle the Game. I was a big fan of Bionicle in general. I have loads of the original toys. I've got all 4 of the films. I used to watch them over and over again because I loved them so much. I love the toys, as I've mentioned already. And yeah, I must admit I was pretty bummed when it was cancelled, and the reboot wasn't the best, let's be honest now. But it wasn't bad. I actually did appreciate the lengths they went to try and make these models as close as the original, but they are still very, how do I phrase it, plastic looking, which is ironic because they are plastic toys. But the reboot in 2015, the plasticiness, however you want to phrase it, looked a little bit too plasticky, and they all looked almost the same, really. You know, one of the things that I like about the original, in particular the Toanuva and Toametru, were, you know, they all looked complex. They looked actually like a character. They actually looked like a proper biomechanical creature. But with the reboot, it just looked like a plastic, bright, shining toy. There was no real detail to it, if you know what I mean. You know, you look at the Toametru, for example, you can see all these intricate little details in the body, and yeah, you got all these little piston pipes here and there, and it's tiny bits of detail like that, which is what I didn't like about the reboot. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the game, aren't we? And the game is set during 2001 to 2003, and quite interesting enough, the game itself used to be, or was originally meant to be, some sort of game that was going to tell a much broader story. It was going to be telling the story from 2001 to 2003. However, during development, the game was rushed, and when you play the game, you can tell it's rushed. What I mean by this is, it's very choppy. And not only that, the story is all over the fucking place. It's terrible. It tries to incorporate the Mask of Light story while also incorporating stories from 2001, 2002, and other stories from 2003. But the issue is, they've decided to go in a route that, or because they've rushed the game so much, it's all over the place. So you'll be from a 2001, and immediately you're chucked into 2002, then immediately you're chucked into 2003, with no real guidance. There's no real flow. It's just one thing, or one time period to another, which is kind of annoying. That said, you can sort of guess what the story's about, especially if you're someone that knows what the story is, but if you don't, then you're going to have a real hard time. So that's a bit of an issue right there. If you can see in my gameplay, or if you can see on screen, you will notice that I do tend to die quite a lot in this game, and some of it was because of stupid mistakes, like I jumped through a gap by accident. I admit, I was pretty poor at playing the game in that sense. But then other times, For example, a Toa-Tahu or Toa-Tahu Nuva level when you're skiing down the lava, trying to beat the Rockshi to the village or try and get the Mask of Light. The issue here was the game was quite unresponsive. Like, you tried firing one of your blast bolts into one of the crooked pillars, try and save yourself, and instead there's a delay and you just end up smacking and losing a life. Which was annoying, and then the Rockshi would just bump into you, which caused you to lose another life. Yeah, hit detection is quite iffy as well. There is this sort of targeting system, but sometimes when you fire one of your bolts, it doesn't even hit the enemies, it doesn't even hit anything for that matter, so that's why I really dislike the skiing levels, if you could call them that, because they weren't the best gameplay wise. You'd fire a bolt and it would just miss the enemy, or would just hit them only ever slightly. It was annoying. So, oh, there was a delay. That was the other thing. There was also a delay. So you press the button and then you wait like literally a second before it would go off. So if you're watching, or if you did watch the long play, you will notice that I do die quite a lot, and I am not the best, so it doesn't seem like I'm playing at the best, but I did have a bit of an issue with the controls, which were fucking unresponsive as shit. Anything else that was problematic? Graphically, I mean, technically speaking, this is from 2003, and I can excuse it for that. I don't think that should be brought into account. But what can be brought into account is the god-awful voice acting. You listen to some of this dialogue, you listen to some of these characters talk, and by God, is it just cringeworthy. It sounds like a child trying to put on a teenage accent who's trying to put on an adult accent. That sort of, hey dude, I can do this, and it's that really awful sounding voice acting. It's that sort of voice acting that you can hear, and by God, does it suck. By God, does it suck. Especially when you go into the Takanuva level, which is the final level, funnily enough. And you're fighting Makuta, and you hear him speak, and oh God, it sounds like someone who somehow knows how to animate, well, just about know how to animate, and decided, and they're just a 10-year-old speaking. It really does sound bad. Almost as bad as that fan-made Shrek movie. Well, not necessarily fan-made. It's a bunch of animators have decided to go ahead and make the whole Shrek movie again. And in the trailer, by the way, I am quite excited for it. I'm not saying that it's bad by any means, but in the trailer they have this one moment where there's this little kid speaking, and by God, does it suck! But that said, it does have Christian in it, so it's going to be absolutely amazing. But I digress. Let's go back to Bionicle. I keep getting myself distracted about this game. So there's not a lot of levels in the game. You first start off with the Toa-Tahu level. It's a decent level. I'm going to say it right now. You get to know the controls. I will say this, jumping was kind of a problem. I would double jump, but the characters would never double jump, they would just do one jump, and that came quite problematic on some occasions when I'm trying to jump over a ledge. I double jump, but instead they jump once and they just die, which kind of pissed me off a bit. But Toa-Tahu's is meant to be a bit more of a tutorial level. This is what you're meant to do, this is what the characters do, etc, etc. You can use your shield to block attacks, which by the way never works, unless you really do just press it as soon as the enemies hit you. It's clunky as fuck. You know, and it could have been an excuse because of story or characters or what have you, but nah, the gameplay fucking sucks. After the Toa-Tahu you get Toa Kopaka, who, funnily enough, was the first ever Bionicle I ever owned. Toa Kopaka. He was the first ever Bionicle I ever had. It was, in fact, the 2001 variation. For whatever reason, I never had any of the Rockshi or the Borak, or even any of the Toa Nova, or Metru for that matter, only Turkopaka, and then all of a sudden, 2004, I have all of them. Once again, I digress. It's a skiing level, and I don't like these skiing levels. Skiing, you can press the thumbstick to go up to make it faster, or you can slow it down. I always went fast. But even then, trying to turn it's really bad. It's hard to describe, but you try and turn and the character doesn't really turn that much. They just inch very closely away and then inch away this way, and it just, yeah, it wasn't the best. So yeah, what other levels came afterwards? Toa Gali, yes. So all of a sudden the Toa changed into Toa Nuva forms, the Toa Matter, and yeah, there's no real explanation. The opening dialogue scene with Nakama, Dragon Nakama, and Toa Gali I thought was quite funny, unintentionally, because it sounded like Toa Gali went through puberty. And like she says, "Oh, my body changed, but I'm the same." It unintentionally made me laugh. So it does get a point for that. In fact, I think that's something I could say about the whole game in general. It's one of those games that is so bad it's hilarious. But Toa Gali, this level, playing this throughout this level was a bit of a pain in the ass for me because not because the level was actually bad, because funny enough, Toa Gali's level wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst. You could play well. I mean, swimming got a little bit annoying because, you know, you try and bop out and you just go right in the air and you try and land on an edge and the character wouldn't land on the edge. This is why I think video games really do need to have this grapple option, so the characters will always grab onto the ledge of a building or something like that. I think that's a very important factor in games. But back to what I was saying, Toa Gali, the issue I had in this level wasn't necessarily the swimming or the gameplay, it was more or less the Matoran. You see, if you watch my long play, you'll notice that there's sort of this awkward cut during the Gali play through, because you'll notice that I spend a huge chunk trying to look for another Matoran, because you need 13 Matoran to set off this big submarine thing, whatever it is. But here's the thing: if you don't get the Matoran in the previous area, then you're fucked. You need to search tooth and nail for every single Matoran, or at least 10 odd Matoran, to verify that you won't get trapped. Because this is the type of game that will force you to collect a certain amount of things, but will block you from ever going back to a section to get said thing and complete the level. So I actually got stuck in Toa Gali's level because I couldn't free myself. I could not find myself a way out, and it got really annoying. So very annoying that I had to restart the whole level, find all the Matoran that I could find, and then the second time running I got 13 Matoran exactly and managed to get through the level. Toa Pahatu. Toa Pahatu was disappointing. You have this rail section, and the rail section, they don't really give you a lot of health, and you have to like lean out to grab these energy balls to make sure that you stay alive. But if you don't grab enough, you get chucked off, and you'll notice in my long play that I died a lot because shit's being thrown at you constantly. You have to constantly grab these energy balls, and you don't really get any lives, so you're screwed regardless. The best level, funnily enough, is afterwards, Toa Onua. Funnily enough, this is the only level that I genuinely had fun with. It was the only level which I thought was decent. Now, there's still problems with it, but it's decent. I believe this is the level which has the Rahi section. Now, the issue with the Rahi section is that you have to jump through, or you have to get through them without being crushed or being battered out of the way. The issue here was, I did what the game wanted me to do. I jumped through them, and I still went through the Rahi, and I'd get like nudged out of the way. The game would like force this invisible wall that would block me from actually moving forward, which got really annoying. And obviously I died quite a few times, as you can kind of gather, because the Rahi would sort of like come out and then they'd like instantly jump forward and come out again. It's weird. But saying that, Onua was the only level which I thought was decent. It was the only decent level which I actually felt like it was kind of fun. Rock pushing, I can't speak today, that was actually quite good. I quite enjoyed the, well, it's not good, it's not brilliant, this is a tedious task, but what I mean is, it wasn't as bad as, say, some of the other things. You can push the rocks, and it's quite finicky, to be fair, but it isn't as bad as some of the other things. Speaking of bad things, Toa. Now, the Toe of Air, funnily enough, in my Bionicle collection, I rarely got the green toes. I don't know why, they just were the ones that always seem to be omitted from my timeline, but saying that, Toa Liwa's level was a pain in the ass, and oh boy, did I hate this level. So, first things first, you need to collect some Matora and save them by popping their balloons, which doesn't really save them if you really think about it. But you're meant to pop these balloons. You go railing through the branches, the vines, and then you get onto this jumping platform section. The jumping platform section isn't that bad, but you need to glide to get to some of these platforms, and some of these platforms also break away. What's worse is the camera likes to shove itself in the most awkward of positions, so then you're kind of fucked. No matter what you do, you kind of get fucked over because the camera just doesn't want to show you what you want to see, and you end up falling to your death. Once again, collision detection isn't the best. You kind of just, you don't even land onto an object some of the times. You just hit the side of it and then fall down and die, or you just fade right through it. But the worst part of the Toa Lua section has to be the bird section. It's a tiny bit, to be fair, but it's awful. Supposedly you need to glide behind the bird, and the bird will keep you afloat no matter what, and you circle around and you end up to this other location. But my god, was this a pain in the fucking ass. Okay, so imagine this. You think that the bird would be slightly in front of you, so that it's always going to be in front. But no, what happens is you have to jump first, and then the bird will nudge you out of the way as you're gliding, so that it goes in front of you so that you can follow it. Worst part is, it will turn at such sharp angles, causing the player to quite literally drop to their deaths. They will fall to their deaths and they will die. That is not fun, that is a pain in the ass. And eventually I just started learning the way that the bird was moving, because even if you're slightly outside of the bird's range, you'll fall to your death. And the worst part is, it was kind of inconsistent, because sometimes you'd go outside for a bit and then you'd come back in and you'd be fine. Sometimes you'd go outside for a tiny bit and you'd just drop to your death, and it was an annoying section. When I got through that, I was so relieved. And of course I got kind of scared because I got killed immediately afterwards, because I thought, oh god, I'm going to have to repeat that bird section again. But thankfully there is a save point right as soon as the bird lands and you land. So I'm grateful for that. So yeah, Toa Liwa's level was just a pain in the ass. I could not stand that level. I will say this, the boss fight was fine. It actually reminded me of Crash Bandicoot, but not as good because once again, you fire these bolts and these bolts either hit or they don't hit. Simple as that. So then we get into Totaku Nuva. The only character that actually has 2 levels in this game. I do believe this might be because of the fact that they ran out of development, so all the other characters never got a 2nd level. So you're meant to get the Mask of Light, which is in the hands of Orochi. You ski through the lava. This section pissed me the fuck off because you've got all the other problems that I've mentioned before, where you try to shoot a bolt and it doesn't hit, or it does hit but it hits at such a slow delay. It's a slow delay. And the same thing happened here. You're skiing, you fire a bolt, and you got to remove these pillars so that you don't get injured or hurt. But it's got this delay, so then you end up hitting the pillars before the fireball actually hits the pillar. So that sucks. The Rockshi will constantly nudge into you and kill you. That sucks. What you're seeing in my gameplay footage, or in my long play, is 2 attempts out of the many attempts that I had doing this level. Because each time the Rockshi would like sort of get stuck in you and you just lose health one after another because there's no real delay in how long you're injured, you just get hurt constantly. Shit would just fall on you, and obviously the delay with everything else. Not only that, if you hit the Rockshi or you hit a bit of a stone or something, you slow down to a complete halt, and worst part is there are these crushing pillars at one point, which just, yeah, they were a pain in the ass because you hit the side of it and then all of a sudden the Rockshi would hit you and then you'd get crushed. And sometimes you don't even need to be crushed to somehow get crushed. Like, I got bypassed one pillar and I just got killed. I dropped through the ground and died. Unfortunately, I did get rid of all my footage earlier this morning, so what you're seeing is what I uploaded. So, yeah, that's pretty annoying. So it's also a race, so you have to beat the Rockshi. But what's worse is, most games have this rubber band effect, so that the enemies or the other racer is always going to be trailing behind you. It's always going to like come near you. It's always going to teleport near towards you, but not like in front of you or anything like that. Or like not directly behind you, just at a distance that's fair. In this game, I witnessed on a few occasions the Rockshi quite literally teleporting in front of me. The character model would teleport directly in front of me and just zoom off. And by God, that annoyed me. And when I was meaning about how the Rockshi would get stuck in Tahu and then just kill him, funnily enough, that is pretty much what happened. The Rockshi would teleport, but it'd teleport inside or just right by Tahu, and he'd just get injured and he'd drop back and all die. Because you don't even get any health on this bit. You can't heal yourself either, so that's pretty much a pain in the ass. I forgot to mention how you're meant to attack. You've got this energy bar. You can refill it by basically holding the X button or having one of these canoeing masks that you can collect that heals you as well. You can just spam the X button, the square button I should say, not the X button. Square button, hold that constantly, every so often, and you'd be fine. Yeah, I was not a fan of the Tahu level whatsoever. So then we find ourselves on the final level, which is Totaku Nuva. We finally get to see Totaku Nuva fight Makuta, just like in the Mask of Light movie, just like in the comics, blah blah blah. And honestly, this ain't too bad. I actually found this to be the most well-made level, which probably says a lot. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if this was the first level they actually developed, because it's the only level which feels actually complete. It actually feels like a proper complete level, but it feels like also the type of level that they did first because they knew that they needed this level out of all the other levels. And so you just defeat Makuta. That's really it. It's quite an easy boss fight as well. I actually quite enjoyed this level. All the deaths that happened in said level, if you see my long play, were my fault. I actually admit this time it was completely my fault. I fell right through rocks, or I jump at the worst moments, or I wouldn't really acknowledge that you're meant to jump onto a certain stone because another stone just dropped down and disappeared. So really, when I died in this level, I died because of me, not because of the game fucking me over. Like with the Tahu level, which just pissed me the fuck off. So yes, is it a bad game? Yes it is. Is it the worst game I've ever played? Maybe. Is it one of the worst games I've ever made? I wouldn't say so. Mainly because there are plenty of games out there that, in my opinion, are a billion times worse. And yeah, I think that's basically all I can say. It deserves the 3 out of 10 that it's got. It deserves the 30% it's got around review sites, etc. It really does. It's not the best. Bionicle Heroes, on the other hand, is fucking awesome. Totally play that. As for my copy, I like to keep it because at the end of the day, it is still Bionicle, and it does have extras. It has one of the great things that a lot of old games used to have, and that's extras. It has concept art, it has trailers, which I absolutely love. I love these extras, so it does have some redeemable qualities. And like I said, the Onua, the first Tahu level, and the Tekanuva levels are fine. It has its galleys, technically speaking, but yeah, the Matoran bit was a pain in the ass. So yeah, it's not a good game, but it's a game that is kind of enjoyable in the sense of it's so bad, it's hilarious, but yeah, just avoid the Kapaka and the Tahu Nuva levels because they seriously are the worst levels in the game. Oh, and Lua.